So I did a thing like this. Had to try it, see what it was like. It was on sale in Sainsbury's, so I thought, Sainsbury's got it, I'll have a go. No, thank you very much. It's very, very, very sugary. It's a bit like, you know, when you drink a cordial drink and you forget to dilute it, you just pour it in a drink and you think, I forgot to put the water in. That's what this is like. Really, really sugary and not overly pleasant, although I have drunk it, obviously. So while I was out the other day with the drone, and it was windy and I couldn't get done what I wanted to get done, I did have an idea. I thought, well, what about film cameras and my cameras and other stuff that I've been using over the years, or stuff that I've got hidden or up in the loft, that maybe I could go through them here in a vlog and show you a little bit about, well, what I have. So I ended up digging out my cameras, my digital cameras and my film cameras, some of which aren't even working anymore. There's quite a few actually. I'll take a picture. In this picture you'll see there's a lot of cameras and there's a good majority of those that don't actually work, especially the film ones. Some of the digital ones don't work properly, even the digital Pentax SLR, that sort of thing. But it just sort of goes to show what you can build up and what you can get used to using and what you get used to keeping and thinking I should throw away or I should just do something with them. So the cameras that I actually use, not on a daily basis, but I use regularly, are the Sony ZV-1, which I'm filming this on, the Sony A5000 with the interchangeable lenses for photography, the Pentax K7 for photography, the Sony WX350, which is mainly for doing watch pictures, that sort of stuff. It was a sort of go out in the car, but I changed my mind on that. And the Panasonic underwater camera would be used if I could think of a use for it, but I don't. And of course the GoPros get a bit of use. But generally speaking, there's a lot of stuff there that doesn't get any use. Now of course it's not just the amount of cameras that I've got as well, it's all the paraphernalia and bits that go with them. I'll do a lighting thing in a separate video because the lighting's a bit ridiculous. But it's things like all the tripods. I say all the tripods. I've only got 3 bigger tripods, 2 normal and a monopod. But I've got all the ball heads and the contraptions and clamps and all the other little bits and bobs that I use to make these videos and to take my pictures, watch pictures and car pictures and stuff like that. I don't carry all of that lot around with me all the time, but half of it probably goes with me most of the time. In one of my videos not so long ago, I built this, the Lumix Construct Your Own Camera. Film camera, still got a film in it, but it's come to the end. In the picture earlier, you'd have seen some film cameras. I thought I've got the film cameras, could go out with taking a few pictures every now and then. But I've also got stuff in the loft that used to be my dad's, and I thought I'd go through that here and just show you a bit of the history, very brief history for me, on some of the cameras and their ages and sort of the usage of things, how they've changed from going to things you can even build yourself to the digital cameras of today where we use digital memories instead of film. So we had compact flash cards, we had XD cards, Sony Duo cards, SD, all sorts of different types of cards, and of course stuff's now being stored on hard drives and other devices, pen drives, things like that, whereas before films you get them printed and put into an album. And I can't remember where my photo album is. I have got one somewhere, but it's hardly anything in it. I think about 12 pictures in it or something, to be fair. Never really used it, just kept them in the packets they came in from the developers. So, as I said, I was going through some of the stuff up in the loft, TAT, and this is TAT. Unfortunately, none of this stuff's worth anything, but cameras like this. This is an old 120, uses a film roll called 120, Coronet from 1926, and it's a compact camera. Look at it. I mean, it is rusty and falling apart, but it folds out. All that lot folds back into this case, and you're supposed to use this bit at the top here to actually sort of line up what you're supposed to be taking a picture of. To be honest with you, how you do that, I have no idea whatsoever. So the button to take the picture is on the front, like that. But that's sort of 1926, and that was quite late into the day of cameras. Cameras come out quite a long time before that, to be honest with you. Something unusual. As I said, it's not worth much. You can buy these on eBay for about 11 quid. If we move along till 1954, we've got things like this. Still apparently a compact camera. It's quite heavy, to be honest with you, and it's got those things that I remember as a kid with little instant cameras. One thing I remember is this little bit of red at the back, which is where it sort of shows you what film number, and as you wound this through, this again is a 120 film, you could actually see the number on the back. But the lens on this thing, you used to press the button at the top and you'd get, again, a concertina effect. And the winders at the side, so you'd wind your film on, and your button at the front. Unfortunately, again, worthless now. Again, you see these on eBay for less than a tenner. Now, by the 1950s, things had changed quite a bit, and you've got more sort of camera-looking cameras as we know them now, with fixed lenses without the bellows. Things like this, the AGI flash. Again, it's a beast of a thing, but it's got more sort of normal camera feel. It's got a windy film, push button to take the pictures, and this one is called a flash because at the top here, there's a little piece here that comes out, and you can actually stick bulbs in the top for your flash. So it was a flash camera made of Bakelite, leatherette and all that sort of stuff, and it's in an Art Deco design, although it's way after the Art Deco movement, I think, because this is a 1950s camera, sort of 54 I think these came out. Terrible state again. So this uses a film called 127, so again quite a large format film, i.e. with wide, but I say wide as in large, not compact. Moving on a bit later to the 60s. The 60s we still sort of had famous brands and famous logos. This logo on this one, little B, which if you're a camera person or old like me, I'm not old, I've watched YouTube videos to be fair. B was for Brownie, and Brownie was a brand of Kodak. I used to do Kodak box Brownie. So they did a case and a camera like this. This is a Kodak Instamatic 100. And it's more your normal looking camera now. So it looks like an ordinary camera. You've got a little winder thing on the side. You press this to take the shots. Now this was a camera that took a film cartridge. A plastic box that went into the back was your cartridge. Closed up there, you wound it on at the side. It does have a flash. So unlike the other one we stuck a bulb on the top, this one still has a flash, but similar sort of idea. You pull this out and you actually put a bulb in there. So physically put a bulb into there, and there's the idea with those bulbs is when you took the picture, pop, it went, but then that bulb was spent. You had to put another one in. So for every picture you wanted, you tended to have to buy a new bulb. So you didn't use the flash very often. These were more your daylight and outside cameras. In the 60s, you also got more technologically advanced cameras. First SLR cameras, decent SLR cameras were out and about, but were still quite expensive and not everyone could afford them. So you had cameras like this come out. This is an Agfa. We had this lovely, horrible case, to be honest with you, it's not very nice. But you had a better camera, better featured camera. This thing, and you've got more controls on it. It's actually got auto aperture, focusing. 60 to 64 these came out. It just looks more like you'd expect a camera to look. You've got a counter on the side to tell you where the film is. You don't get a little red window at the back. It's a 35mm film on this. Hot shoe for a flash. There's a setting on the top where you can change the type of film that you put into it. So if it's 100 or 200 ISO, that sort of stuff. Decent viewfinder. It was a proper looking camera. Quite a nice looking camera. Again, dirt cheap on eBay nowadays if you wanted to try and use one. I don't think I would, to be fair. This one, strange enough, this one, I mean, I don't know how old this one is and how long it's been up in the loft. It's actually got a film in it, which I found out to my mistake because I've opened it up, so it's probably ruined the film. But the back sort of slid off, and then you've got your 35mm film, which you can see in there. As I said, which is ruined because you can't expose film to light. If you do, it kills it, and basically it's what I've done. But at some point I'll take it out, and maybe when I send off the film for my Lumix build my own camera, I'll see if there's anything salvageable on the film for this. And carrying on with heavy and bulky cameras, I've got a dirty camera here, a bit of a mess. This is a Minolta from 1966, Minolta Highmatic 7S. It's in a right state, but again, more of your sort of your normal looking camera. Winder, button to take pictures, but some of the features you would expect from today's more modern cameras. That's a slight bit of a zoom. It has an auto aperture control and pretty standard manual focus controls on it, stuff like that. So on from where the Agfa was really nice, this is a bit horrible looking, but you can see sort of through the 60s things changed up and down a bit. And to be fair, the 70s weren't much better, to be honest with you, but the 70s did bring us something different, and that was this thing. Again, pretty worthless piece of tat today, but a Polaroid camera. This is a Polaroid land camera, and it's called a land camera because actually the films that it used, the cartridges, were land films. But it sort of opens up quite difficultly. The film cartridge, as with all your Kodaks, you used to slot it into a little bit down here, whip it shut, take your pictures here at the front. As you took your pictures, you pulled them out of the side, so a little bit of it popped out, and it wasn't automatic, you didn't sort of feed it out to you. You took the picture, pulled it out yourself, tore off the strip, and then developed that picture in the sunlight. You sort of shook it, shake it like a Polaroid picture, all that sort of stuff, and it developed the pictures for you. It does have a flash shoe at the side, so you can actually put on little box flashes. You won't remember them, but there's little things like little, again, square flashes you'd put on. They'd fire once, turn them around, they'd have about 4 shots on them, roughly. But not exactly compact, is it? So it's a handy instant camera. You got the picture straight away, but you took out this massive, great big thing with you to get you instant pictures. These, as I say, come out in the 70s. This was 71 to 76. These come out again. Tons of them on eBay if you ever wanted to buy one. I don't know if you could buy the land film anymore. And again, I don't think I'd want to be fair. It's one of those things, again, like with a lot of the other cameras that I've shown you, you could probably stick it on a shelf somewhere. Some of the people I watch on YouTube have these sort of cameras on a shelf in the background to show that they have cameras. The first camera I actually remember, and the first camera I remember using as a kid, came out in 1974. I think we had it a bit later than that, and that was this, the little Agfomatic 3008. This is a 110 film camera. Now 110 is actually a much smaller cartridge, tiny little films, but the camera's much smaller. So this was a tiny little thing. You had a little push button at the side, you push the button on here, pops out, big red button on the top to take your pictures, there you go. But a much more compact with a strap. And when I said the film cartridge was small, yes, it is. You open up the back and it went in there. So it feels like a bit like a spy camera, but the spy cameras were much, much, much smaller. But this was still very tiny. And as I said, as a kid, it was ideal for a kid because you could stick that in a pocket, because it was called a pocket, and wander around with it. The only downside to this was, with the 35mm pictures, you got 6x4s, or plate films and things like that. You could even get even bigger. These pictures always came out small. So they were tiny little pictures. You never got a big picture, you got a silly little stupid sized picture. Your pictures came out this sort of size, and they're quite small. If you look at them, little square things. Whereas your normal sort of average at the time, 35mm was producing this size, your 110 was producing little square things. You went from sort of like standard definition to widescreen. Some of the pictures aren't too bad, I suppose. Me as a kid holding an owl, or trying to. And whilst I was looking around, I've actually just found another type of film, which I haven't got a camera for. This is a Kodak 200 film. So again, this is a style of cartridge. It's things I was talking about, like with the 110s. It's a cartridge-based film. You sort of slot that into the back of the camera. That's the bit that gets exposed to light, and the bit you see with the numbers on is this thing down here at the back. But where the hell you would get something like that developed nowadays, wouldn't have the foggiest idea. If you ever find anybody that can do it, may find some mysteries. I doubt it very much. The last time I developed a film that I'd had for years, I was pictures of the cat when it was young, so I thought, oh, it's not that old actually. It's not as old as I thought it was.